Hi everybody, River here at Skylight Music Studios. Today we're bringing you a little one-off lesson on note finding. This ties up particularly nicely with the octave shapes lesson. You can combine the two and get a real fluency of the fretboard. It also means that you can start designing your own exercises, be a little bit more self-sufficient than always having to sort of see what everybody else is doing and practice their stuff rather than your own. Though of course you'll still want to keep that up just because it's nice to see what everybody else is up to. So what we're going to be doing is finding all of a particular note, so every instance of a particular note along the fretboard, and going through playing all of them to a particular speed if you're playing with a metronome. But what is very important to note is that if you're new to this kind of exercise, or if you've never looked at this kind of thing at all before, ignore that metronomes exist. Just pretend that they are an invention that's still to happen. Don't use them until you're comfortable with the exercise. It's quite mentally easy to understand this one, but playing it is a little bit different. Certainly at speed, if you're under the pressure of a metronome, trying to stay in without losing time or losing where you are. So if you're new to this, just wait until the end, play it a few times to yourself, get the idea in your head and get it working on the fretboard, and then once you're comfortable with it, start the metronome then. And if you already are comfortable with it, or if you pick it up really quickly when you bring in the metronome, make sure that you're playing at a comfortable speed. Make sure that you can go through and do this at whatever speed is comfortable for you. Make sure you can do it without any mistakes, and then start raising the bar slightly. 5 beats per minute or so extra each time you go through it is fine. And when you raise the speed, make sure that you're comfortable again before raising it up the next time. It's always important not to challenge yourself too hard, because if you're pushing for too much and you're just not getting it, always messing it up or whatever, it can be really disheartening, and it'd be a shame to give up when it's meant to be something that's really useful. It's fairly essential knowledge and it can really improve your playing if you get it. So just be a bit patient with it and let it happen naturally. Don't push too hard. So what we're doing is going through, I'm going to be finding every G on the fretboard. Because this isn't a sort of playing exercise, it's more a mental exercise, thinking about where all of the notes are. Doesn't really matter how you fret or pick these notes. I'm a finger player, so I'm going to be using thumb, forefinger mainly, but if you're using a plectrum, that's fine, and you can use whatever finger to fret it that you like. So going through, finding all of the G's first. I'll just talk you through what we're doing when we're playing this. So the first one that we find is on the 3rd fret of the low E. The next one that we find is going to be on the 15th fret of the same string, that low E. Now if you're used to tuning your guitar yourself without using a machine, you'll understand the fret difference between each of the strings. So this next one, we're going to be moving 5 frets back and up the 1 string. So we're going to be hitting on the 10th fret of that A string. Now if you've got a 22 fret guitar, if you're on an electric for example, there are some acoustics that have 22 frets, but they're not as common. Make sure you do play that G on the 22nd fret of the A string, just for completeness sake. Don't leave it out if you've got it there to play. I don't, so I'm going to move up onto the D string now, and I'm going to play the 5th fret, the D string, and then I'm going to play the 17th. It's the next G there. Now open G string, nice and easy for me, because we're looking for the G's. So we'll play that open, and then we'll also play the 12th fret. So that's the octave G again. Then the tuning on standard goes a little bit weird here. So instead of being uniform, we're going back to the 8th. So we're only going back 4 this time, rather than going back 5. So that's the 8th fret on the B string. We're also going to move up and play the 20th. And then the high E string, exactly the same as the low E string. We're going to be playing the 3rd, and then we're going to play the 15th. Okay, now we'll throw all of that together for you, and then we'll talk a little bit about the exercise and how you can play it yourself. So here it is all together if you were practicing it as an exercise. Okay, so that's a fairly reasonable pace. You can still see what I'm doing, hopefully. If you're playing to a metronome, obviously you can build the speed up and start playing much faster than that. And if you're just beginning with the exercise, that was maybe still a little bit quick, so don't be afraid to slow it down. Now, there are some sort of rules, some sort of structure to the exercise that we're playing. I'm going from the lowest string to the highest string, and always playing the lowest fret first that the G is found on, or whichever note you're starting with is found on. So that means that I'm doing things like going from the 17th fret of the D string and then playing the open G rather than 12. Clearly, if I was playing them next to each other, that's a bit of an awkward stretch for me, quite small hands, and the only reason I'm getting that is because of the cutaway. But obviously you'd play the 17 and the 12 if you're trying to play sort of the next closest, the next closest instance of that note on the fretboard. So there's many different ways that you can play this. I'm also playing from the 6th to 1st string, as I've just said. You could reverse that and go from 1st to 6th, or you could just bounce it around completely at random and try and get good at picking out every single one of the instances of the note you're looking for, but without playing according to any structure whatsoever, and just bouncing around and picking them all out. So there are many different ways of doing it. Some of them are obviously harder than others. That last one I've described, just going through and randomly picking out the instances, that's going to be very difficult to do. You need to really know your fretboard for that one. The other ones are a little bit more okay, really, and certainly start with the one that I've just shown you if you're new to this. But that's the exercise. Get it ingrained. Like we said, it's more of a mental exercise than a playing one. So even if you're just thinking about it, if you speak out loud the frets that you need to play for each string, that will really help, even if you don't have your guitar handy. So it's a really good one. It's a useful exercise that you can practice to really improve your playing, even when you don't have access to your instrument in order to play it. So it's a nice exercise to have under your belt, and then you can start mixing it with the octave shapes, mixing it with scales, and you can get some real fluency over the fretboard, know where you are all the time, and it can really improve things like your solos and your melody playing. So it's a nice little one to have. But we're going to wrap up there. If you've got any questions about that exercise, or if you need any more ideas about versions and methods of practicing it, just leave a comment in the box below, and one of us will get back to you as quickly as we can. But if not, that's all for today. So we'll catch you later on one of the other videos. So keep having fun, guys, and we'll see you around. See you later.